And now, Sunshine. 2007 Sunshine, rated R with a runtime of 1 hour 47 minutes. This had a budget of $40 million. Alex, what do you think this brought into the box?
Rated R?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
All these movies were rated R.
Oh.
It's too sexy.
Is that what it is? I don't remember anything
No, it's too
It's too sexy. Exclusive.
Is there any boobs this week for all being rated R?
No boobs.
No boobs.
That's some weak shit right there. Now I hate these movies even more.
It's all R for like gore and horror and stuff like that.
I don't remember there being much gore in Sunshine. Anyway, $40 million budget? I think it made in $28 million in the box office.
Okay, Vader?
I'll just guess and say 32.
On the nose, $32 million. Vader wins a speedboat.
I get both showcase showdowns.
You do.
$32 million. So it did lose money.
Yeah.
Because I literally have never heard of this movie
Same.
before.
Yeah.
But it has a banger cast, though.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all very young.
Very
Super
young.
young. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what it's about?
Absolutely.
Okay. The crew of Icarus II are on a mission to reboot Earth's dying sun. They've bid adieu to their families with the knowledge that, well, if you wake up one day and it's kind of nice out, you're welcome. On the way to the sun, the psych officer is crazy horny for being engulfed in the sun's rays. The farmer scientist lady is horny for plants. America's ass is homesick and horny for watching videos of ocean waves. And Thomas Shelby is horny for bombs and saving humanity. All is going well on the mission until they intercept the distress beacon from the first Icarus ship. Everyone but Chris Evans decide to go check out the distress call, and Chris Evans was 100% correct. There's a charbroiled psycho aboard who's horny for a mission of his own, to take all of humanity to heaven, ASAP. This movie's weird, man.
It's real weird. Real artsy-fartsy weird movie. Also, like, the Icarus mythology is like somebody who flew too close to the sun and then died, right?
Yep.
So why would you name both of your spaceships
Icarus?
Icarus.
Yeah.
That just seems like you're setting yourself up for failure.
I would name it something cool like the Iron Maiden or something like that.
Megadeth.
Spinal Tap.
Yeah. Shit, you could just name it Sunshine. But like Sunshine 1 on the way. Like it makes sense. But Icarus, like, let's make sure we know everybody. Let's make sure everybody knows we're going to fucking die.
They're going to save everybody on the world. They call it Savior One or something.
Something. You
Puddle
know?
Jumper.
Puddle Jump. Fuck, I hate that name.
So who does Captain America's in this thing?
Yeah.
Scarecrow's in this thing.
So is Benedict Wong.
Yeah,
plays Doctor Strange.
yeah.
Doctor Strange's sidekick.
Yep. A thin Benedict Wong.
He's very. I didn't recognize him
I
at
did
first.
not recognize him.
But
And
Mr. Samurai.
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle
Yeah,
Yeoh.
yeah, she's in this movie too. This is a dope cast.
It's a
Yeah.
great cast.
Yeah, and Hiroyuki Sanada,
Yeah.
who's
love
like
him.
the go-to Japanese actor.
Yeah, he was in
He's
like
in everything.
he's in everything.
Westworld.
Yeah,
all kinds of-
Westworld.
Yeah, he was Scorpion in the new Mortal Kombat.
That's right.
He's the
Yeah.
best part of that movie.
Get over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this like
Is there anybody in this cast that hasn't gone on to be somewhat famous?
I don't know. Rose Byrne is also in this.
Yeah,
Mark
I love
Strong
her.
plays Pinbacker.
It's like
I was gonna say, yeah, the guy, the charbroiled dude from the Icarus One. Like, you don't ever see his face, but as I was watching it, I clicked on like the cast or whatever, and
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, he's in this too.
Well, you see his face in the video diaries that that the captain that Sonata
yeah.
plays.
That's true.
Is reviewing.
All right, so the premise of this, I guess, is
the sun is dying.
the sun is
Yeah.
dying.
So they got to
and-
reboot it by dropping like a nuke into
yeah.
it and create a star within a star.
Yeah, which I
I don't think that works.
gotta email.
I don't know about that science.
I gotta
but
email
whatever.
Professor Target and be like, would this work?
It's not a nuke. It's not a nuke.
It's like a cold fusion thing, right?
Some kind of thing to kickstart the star.
Yeah, to
Start
read,
the sun.
which I don't think that would.
It's a bomb.
Yeah, it's a bomb.
Yeah, the bomb the payload that they're taking there has like the mass of like a small moon or something like that.
And so they send the first Icarus One ship there, and then like nobody hears from it again, and they're like, oh shit, something happened. So they send Icarus Two, and they're like, well, go and see if this works a second time. Let's do the same thing, exactly the same thing again. And then once they get there, they find out that Icarus One is just kind of like floating around in orbit, and like nobody's alive on it. They're like, oh, what's going on? Let's go explore. Which is every single movie this week.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, look, a derelict spaceship. Let's go on board.
It should be derelict sleeper ship week.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Let's go on, check it out.
Yeah, and
see
Chris
how-
Evans is the only one who's like, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
We're on a mission to save all of humanity. We're sticking with the mission, and they really should have.
He's watched sci-fi movies before.
Right,
Yeah.
he's seen horror movies.
Yeah, 100%.
Is this
like one of my big issues with this film in particular is that, like, when you're writing a movie, you always want to give a reason why stuff is happening. And when you have a mission that's so important to the fate of humanity, you wouldn't deviate off of that, even for the redundancy excuse that they had. So typically, like, when you're writing something like this, what you do is you'd have that scene and the crew would be like, okay, we're sticking on mission. We're not going after this thing because our mission's too important. And then something happens where, like, their payload becomes faulty and they're forced to go after the other ship in order to get their payload.
Why didn't they just get him on the way back?
Isn't that sort of what happened?
No, what happened is that, so Cillian Murphy's character, he's like the astrophysicist on the mission, and they make the case that they're not sure if his bomb is actually going to work, and by getting the other payload along with their payload, they have, like,
basically double their chances.
Yeah, they double the chances of the mission actually working.
Yeah.
But you know, like, I feel like that was kind of like faulty logic in a way, because, like, if their payload didn't work, they could have just swung around and gotten that one on the way home and, like, turned back around and stuff like that. So I didn't like the logic, but, like, if this were a properly written movie, it would have been like, okay, our payload, for whatever reason, like, is faulty. We can't use it. So we have to go after this other one. And then, like, all, like, the bad shit starts happening.
Well, they had a perfect time to do that too, because something happens to the ship where the sun, like, one of the something blows up or something like that, which damages their shield, right?
Yeah, no, what happens is that, so they decide to go after the Icarus I, and Benedict Wong, who's, like, the navigator, he forgets to adjust the shield because they changed their trajectory by, like, 1.2 degrees. And he forgot to take into account the fact that he needed to adjust the sun shield as well. And so when they make the adjustment, they're exposed to direct sunlight, and they're so close to the sun that it actually, like
it burns out some sensors.
Well, it destroys part of their ship because like, it basically just melts, and it causes all types of, like, catastrophic issues, and it creates holes in their shield and stuff like that they got to fix, and it just starts the spiral of ever increasing like bad decisions.
It had something to do with the shields. The shields not closing properly.
Yeah, well, that's why they had to go out there.
There was, like, 3 of those things. And, and just one little thing, one catastrophe after another.
I'll give this movie a lot of credit for the cinematography. It's freaking gorgeous.
Really pretty.
And the spacewalks where they go out there and they have to repair the shield, and they're in that big gold weird looking spacesuit. I was digging that shit. Dude. I thought it was really freaking cool.
I think they had to get everybody on the planet to turn in all their gold with these 2 spaceships, because, you know, the gold thing is the reflector's real. That's what they use in space to.
You think that whole shield is made out of gold, or at least gold plated?
It kind of has to be, I think, but I don't know. But you know, if you look at, like, these satellites and like
that new telescope that they
the
just
new
put
telescope,
out there,
they're completely covered in gold, and they're crazy looking. It's really neat.
This movie is beautiful, but I do agree with Vader. It's a little too artsy fartsy for me. Like, they had a lot of, like, slow scenes where it was just, like, really focusing in on a character.
Well, it really kicked in for me when they get to the Icarus I. And they're opening the hatch, and everything's covered in dust. And every 10 seconds, you see this little subliminal flash of I'm assuming it's a face of a crew member from the first Icarus, but nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit about the people on the Icarus I, with their little flashes and the little. It was dumb. And then I did like the part how I'm assuming, maybe I misinterpreted this wrong, but everything's covered in dust. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where did all that dust come from? And then you find out, like, it's probably human dirt, just ash. It's just human ash everywhere.
Yeah. Skin cells and shit.
Yeah. But there was still a lot of it.
It was probably part of it was probably like ice and stuff like that, because it would have been cold in there.
I don't know. Well, no. So, like, the crew of the Icarus I, basically, they went to the observation room, and there was a hole in the shield, and basically, they're burned to the core. And that ash from their skin over the course of 7 years, I think that they were out there, circulates throughout the ship.
Coated everything. That's how I interpreted that.
That's what's in his throat. That's why he needs that chloroseptic.
It's actually, the throat number is actually working pretty good right now.
It's doing its job.
But artsy fartsy, pretty, but artsy fartsy, and I just the artsy fartsy stuff kind of took me out of it a little bit. And then I still don't understand Mr. Crispy. I don't.
I don't know how he survived.
I-
Like they
it's-
explained
it's
it. They're like,
fucking-
well, technically he had enough food for everybody.
told him.
Yeah, something like that. Obviously he went space crazy.
Yeah.
It's just whatever. It's like, you know, I'm like, where'd this guy come from? It makes no sense that this dude who's 100% burned all over his body is now space son Jesus, and he wants to like kill everybody to go to heaven or something. I thought, okay, you guys know how I watch movies, right? If it's good, I'll watch it. This took me 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a 3-day watch for me. I'm like, I guess I got 20 minutes left. I'll just finish this thing. It's just, you know, because we went to coffee yesterday. I still wasn't finished watching the movie.
Oh man.
I finished this last night, but this was a rough movie for me. The cast is great. It's pretty. It's way too artsy fartsy. It's convoluted. It's kind of confusing. I don't know. It's just I don't care if I ever watch this movie again.
Jude,
Same.
what are your thoughts? Are you in line with Vader?
Yeah, I feel like on paper this could have been a really cool movie, but it doesn't work. I can't tell you why it doesn't. It's like artsy fartsy doesn't really bother me, to use your words. But I thought it was really boring. And I just thought that, I don't know if it was like the chemistry didn't work or it was just so slow. And I don't love like psychological thrillers. I usually find them pretty boring. And I think that this is a psychological movie, not necessarily a horror movie. It doesn't fit in like sci-fi horror for me. And
What would you have changed about
I
it?
don't know. See, that's what's driving me nuts is that I can't figure out why I don't like it or what would make it better.
There's a lot of scenes in this movie where it's like slow moving camera pans.
Yeah.
But they're close up on like your nose and your eyeballs of the
Well, it's
character.
yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, come on. It's just like, I don't want to see up his nose.
It's a character-driven movie.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. Maybe Matt can explain some of those movie producing choices.
feel
I don't
like
know. But I didn't like it.
If this was a book, I probably would have really enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
But the translation of it in a movie, it just doesn't connect with me. And I don't know why.
Kadish, what are your thoughts?
All right, so this is a Danny Boyle movie, and he was the director of Train Spotting, Leonardo DiCaprio's The Beach. He made 28 Days Later, Slumdog Millionaire, 127 Hours with James Franco. And the guy who he wrote this script with, his name's Alex Garland. Now, Alex Garland was a novelist. He wrote the novel The Beach, which Danny Boyle made the film adaptation of. That's how they met. And he also wrote 28 Days Later. He wrote the movie Dread with Carl Urban.
Cillian Murphy's also in 28 Days Later, isn't he?
Yes. And so is Rose Byrne, who's also in this movie. And Alex Garland has made the jump into directing. His directorial debut was Ex Machina with Moon Knight.
Whoa.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, I was gonna say don't mention that show here.
But his latest film was this movie with Natalie Portman called Annihilation. And the thing about Alex Garland is that he's so high-minded, he's borderline pretentious. Like, I hated Annihilation. I thought it was like one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen, and it was simply because it was trying to be very like highbrow, and it was just coming off as like boring and dumb and confusing. So Alex Garland has a long history of writing kind of boring, dumb, confusing stuff and making it very high-minded. And in this movie, so like they spent 3 years making this movie. They spent a year just working on the script. They spent a year in pre-production. They shot it over the course of 3 months. And then they spent a year in post-production because Danny Boyle, he'd never done a science fiction movie before. And he didn't want like a bunch of different effects houses working on the effects. So he chose one effects house. And he's like, you guys do all the special effects for this movie. And so it took them a really long time to do all the special effects for it. And Danny Boyle had such a hard time making this movie that he vowed never to make another science fiction movie again. So this is going to be Danny Boyle's one and only science fiction film. But the interesting thing about this movie is that Alex Garland in his original script had a very deep kind of theme going on in this film, which was basically, it was a film about atheism and finding your belief in God. And the sun was meant to represent God. Cillian Murphy's character, is that how you pronounce his name?
I don't think
I say
anyone
s-
knows. I say Cillian.
Yeah, I say Cillian.
Okay.
I do say Cillian
I think
Murphy.
it's a hard cut.
Yeah,
But
Cillian
I don't
Murphy.
know.
All right. Well, his character, it basically is like the hard science guy. He doesn't believe in God. He's an atheist. and the Pinbacker, is that his name? Mark Strong's character. He's to represent fundamentalism, and so like he's the guy who's like
He's your born again Christian.
or like the jihadist or something like that, like
The extremist,
the extremist, yeah. So basically, Garland's script had like all these like heavy religious themes to it, and at the end of the movie, when Cillian Murphy detonates the payload to save the sun, and the surface of the sun's rushing up to him, and then it stops, and he reaches out to it, like that's him meeting God and having his conversion from being an atheist to believing in the power of the universe and stuff like that. He sees the light, basically. And one of the weird things about this movie is that, so when they were making it, Danny Boyle was like, I don't know about all this religious symbolism. I'm going to pull that back. And he pulled it back so much that it gets lost. And so like it just comes off as weird.
Yeah.
But one of the things is that Danny Boyle's favorite movie is Alien. And so he wanted to make like his version of Alien. And the weird thing about this is that, in most horror movies, darkness is the thing that's supposed to be creepy. And they're like, well, we're going to reverse that. We're going to make light creepy in this movie. And so like they tried to, make light the bright sunlight, the horror aspect of the film.
I feel like if they're going to go deep existential movie like that, then they should have just gone with it and seen what happened. Because the way it turned out, I mean, if you're going to make an artsy-fartsy movie, don't take the artsy-fartsy weird metaphysical stuff out of it. Just
Go full artsy-fartsy.
Go full whatever.
Lean into it.
Because what they ended up with
Something in the middle.
was something
which we don't. None of us are like.
That doesn't
Nobody
work
likes
either way.
that.
It's not like just a straight up sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not a good
horror movie either.
No, it's just weird. It just ended up being weird.
I had fun with the sci-fi, or not even the sci-fi, just the scientific element of this movie. I thought it was really freaking cool. The sun shield and going out on the spacewalks and the danger of being that close to the sun. I was like,
cool elements.
Yeah.
I love the design of the ship itself.
Yeah.
It looks like something
that could be real
that we wouldn't build.
And I love that they have like a garden that like produces the oxygen, which I don't know if that works or not.
No, I think that's part of it.
I don't know how many square feet you need to create enough oxygen to breathe for like 9 people.
Plants, I'm sorry, the machines with the plants that were like circulating it.
Yeah, it was a cool concept.
I don't know about the science, but I was like, I'll believe it.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that what's her name? Michelle.
Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh.
All they needed was some donkeys. And they would have been fine. To make some
Nathan Fillion and some cows.
Make some methane and some stuff to put in the air. Yeah,
and a pretty little bonnet.
Pretty floral bonnet.
We'll talk about that later today. But yeah, it looks, I thought the ship was cool.
Yeah.
Because it looks like something that, it looks like the next evolution of the International Space Station that's floating overhead right now.
I can see that.
Because it's like so many weird disjointed pieces just sticking
like
out
Lego
one direction.
together.
That's what it looks like, and that's what this looks like. And it's kind of got that cool like 2001 Space Odyssey meets modern day tech kind of thing going on.
Yeah, visually, we said this already.
It looked right.
Yeah.
And I love the space shield.
And I liked that like each person in the crew had a clear job and you understood why they were on this mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually got a guy from CERN. His name is Professor Brian Cox to be their science advisor. And so like he was the guy who kind of came in and said like, okay, like if this were an actual mission to the sun, this is how you would have to do things and this is how things would be built and stuff like that. Now there's a lot of wonky science in this movie.
Sure.
Especially like the whole thing about the sun dying. It's kind of weird because like we got about 4 billion years before that starts happening. But
and also like we're going to fly up to it.
and blow it up.
And survive.
That's humanity's answer to everything. Oh, it's broken? Blow it up.
And also like the artificial gravity type thing. So like typically like, you use centrifugal force to
create
simulate the gravity. And with this, Danny Boyle was just like, you know what, I don't want to get wrapped up in that. So we're just going to kind of ignore it.
I can appreciate that though. I mean, sure.
You know how much of a pain in the ass this movie would have been if they had to have everybody in zero G
circling behind the shield.
Well, even if they didn't want to do that, if they're like, okay, we're going to be in zero G this whole movie, it would have been 10 years to make it because they would have had to go up in the plane and film all the scenes of them floating around.
You know what was funny is so like the entire cast, like they had the entire cast live together for like a couple months before they started shooting, so that they could kind of like get to know one another and act like that like they've been in the ship.
If they would have came to me and like, okay, listen, this is is a part of your contract for this movie is you have to live with your co-hosts or your co-stars for like 6 months. I'd be like, I'm an actor. I can act like I know these people.
This is a movie about what happens when you put 12 strangers in a spaceship.
Like, did you want it to come across how irritated we are with each other?
Yeah.
Sold.
Yeah, the only person that didn't live with the cast was Cillian Murphy because his wife was pregnant at the time, and so like he wanted to be able to go home and visit her. But one of the interesting things is that Cliff Curtis, who plays like the ship's counselor, he's the guy who at the beginning he's like
the nut job who's obsessed with the sun.
Yeah, so like his character was supposed to be throughout the whole movie, but midway through shooting, his father fell ill, and so like he had to leave, and so like they just killed off his character,
Killed him first,
and had to like rewrite like the ending without him.
Okay. How'd you guys feel about his little psychotic break when he's like this movie opens up with him sitting in that like observation room and he's like, turn it up. How far can I turn it up before I go blind? And he's like, you can go 3.1% and then your retinas are going to go glassed over. And he's like, do it.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Super horny for sun rays.
Right?
And then he's like, it's like being engulfed because space is like, darkness is the absence, but the sun is like full.
I'm sorry.
Like, what?
I didn't buy it. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
So horny for the sun, you weirdo.
Well, again, the sun is meant to symbolize God.
Yeah.
And so like when he's, seeing God and he's getting exposed to it, he's becoming more and more like fervent in his belief.
He's like, I'm gonna fuck the sun.
He kind of does. You're right. He kind of gets real horned up about it.
He
It's
does.
so weird.
Do you see it now, the horniness?
In this movie, definitely. You're going to have to explain the other ones.
Okay.
But yeah. So I don't know. Do you guys want to do final thoughts? I don't know how much more to say about this.
It's got nothing else.
It's a beautiful movie. It's really pretty to look at.
Yeah.
It's kind of wonky and it's a little boring. I will. That's my final thoughts. I'm going to give it like a right down the middle 2.5. It's got high points for being gorgeous. If you love eye candy, this is the movie. If you love weird futuristic science,
I don't even know if the eye candy's enough to pull it up for me. I mean,
it is
for
for me.
pretty, but it's too weird.
Like this is a movie that I want to take and I want to go watch it with Professor Target and be like, can you explain this to me? Like, does this work? Like, I want to talk to him about this movie. Like, that's what kind of like it piques my interest.
You want to tell people who Professor Target is?
Professor Target is a friend of the podcast who is an astrophysicist, and he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, we met him at the Star Trek convention.
Yep.
We like smart people.
We like smart people. They make us feel better.
Power of science, people.
And so it's like it did pique my interest, but the metaphors and this whole like God atheism thing, I was just kind of like, can we just go straight horror? Because I think that would have been better. Like just start offing people in weird ways and then have it turn out to be the crispy dude. Like cool. But that's it. 2.5 for me. Vader, final thoughts. Give it a rating.
I'm right there with you. I have all the same kind of things to say about it. It's a pretty movie. It's a weird movie. It's too artsy for me. Great cast. It's a really good cast. A lot of these people I guess most of them were sort of famous already, but it's interesting. It's interesting to see what these people went on and did.
Yeah. I think, is everybody in this movie somehow involved in the Marvel universe?
Oh, probably.
I'm just thinking about
in Hollywood now.
Wong, Captain America. We got
Michelle Yeoh was in Chung Lee.
Yeah, Legend of the Ten Rings.
If they were Asian, they're in 10 Rings for sure. Everybody was in that movie, but I'm really kind of torn because it just was just kind of a blah. It took me 3 days to watch it. Like I said, I gotta go like a 2.
Okay, you're okay.
I think I'm gonna go. It's not a 1-star crap fest. If you've never seen it, it's pretty. Take an hour and a half, and if you got some time to waste,
3 days
or 3 days, like I watched it, yeah. And knock it out. It's interesting. It's got some cool stuff in it, but it did not pique my interest. It didn't hold me there, and I didn't care about the characters. Mm-hmm. I knew they were all going to die. From the get go, they're all going to die.
The ship is called Icarus.
Yeah. So there's some cool stuff in it though. Definitely worth watching if you've never seen it before. Okay. And I have, and I'm never going to watch it again.
Okay.
So
Jude?
Oh, we forgot to mention one thing.
What's up?
So at the end of the movie, when the mission was successful, it's not even that much nicer out. Like they're all on Earth and they're like, it's kind of nice today.
Well,
yeah.
I'm so glad 14 people died.
Yeah.
it takes some time for the sun to
8
heat
minutes,
up.
right?
8 minutes.
Yeah. 8 minutes from the sun to Earth.
They're gonna have some flooding problems when the heat's back up too. there's a lot of snow out there.
There's going to be people out there going like, global warming. Like, you told us to do this. We made a mistake. Sorry. I got political for a second. Jude, final thoughts, give it a rating.
You know how I feel about One Star Crap Fest. It has to make me angry.
Right.
This did not make me angry.
Okay.
However, it made me disappointed. That makes me feel like a parent. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. I really wanted to like this. It has a great cast and like sci-fi horror. I was like, ooh yeah, give me some sci-fi horror. And I didn't get anything I wanted out of it. So I guess I feel the same as you, Vader. Like, it's a 2-star, 2 payloads out of 5.
Okay. Kadish?
Yeah, so Danny Boyle, he kind of came up through the indie cinema world, and he's like, an independent filmmaker. He's very much an auteur, like he has like a very strong artistic vision. This movie is very kind of slow and ponderous, and you can tell that it's from like that kind of like British indie cinema realm. Alex Garland adds a lot of pretentiousness to this movie. It's not a bad movie. It's just kind of like very poorly paced, I think. This is Danny Boyle's version of Alien. So you have like the crispy zombie who comes on the ship and he just starts killing everyone and stuff like that. It's like, I remember when I went and saw this in the theater, I was like, oh, it's a sun zombie. Okay. In a weird way, like I feel like the early parts of this movie where like the whole crew is alive and seeing them work together and finding out the details of their mission and stuff like that. That to me was the more interesting aspect of this. And then like when things started going wrong and the horror aspects came into play, I kind of checked out because like I just didn't care. I was more interested in the journey.
I liked my theory about the sun zombie dude yesterday before I finished the movie, because I had this theory that Mr. Crispy was really Cillian Murphy.
From like the future or something?
From just, and what we were watching was,
was his
mental breakdown of him going crazy and killing everybody.
Yeah. But you mentioned you don't know what would have made this movie better. I was just thinking about, as he was talking, I was like, what would have been really cool is instead of having like another crew member from the Icarus I come over and be the crazy person, like have one of the crew. And have it be a mystery for us to figure out as the audience, like which one of the crew has gone mental and started killing everybody.
I thought that's what they were doing, but then it was kind of like, oh, it's got to be the guy that fucked up the shields, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of obvious, and then I was like, oh, it's a totally different guy.
I have one more comment.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Anytime you have a movie about a big giant ship that has a really super smart computer AI on it, it's trouble.
Yeah.
It's trouble. It's like, what are we doing, Dave?
Is that what this movie was missing?
They should have made the computer the crazy person.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
That would have been.
Because it did kind of fuck them up because they were like going off course to go to Icarus I, and the computer was like, no, fuck you.
We have a mission.
Yeah.
You're going to die, but we have a mission to complete.
Yeah. The mission is going to...
I can't do it, Dave.
Yeah. The whole crew needs to be sacrificed in order to accomplish the mission. The guy's like, you're killing everybody. I'm on mission.
And you know what? Everybody on that crew should be cool with that before they even ever launch from planet Earth.
Yeah,
they know they're not coming back.
Yeah, they all kind of.
If I'm an astronaut and I'm on a mission to jumpstart the sun,
I'm dead.
I'm saying my goodbyes before I go.
Yeah,
it's just because I'm not coming back.
And people who have like kids and families, and they're like, "Oh, I miss you guys." What are you doing on a spaceship?
Yeah, you shouldn't even be on the ship.
You're a liability at that point.
Yeah. It's like these people that are going to go to Mars.
I am disqualified from going to space. Sorry, I'd love to, but it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. And anyway. 2 space zombies out of 5.
Okay, so we're all on the same. Yeah, 2's all around.
You gave it the highest with 2.5.
Because I think it's pretty. I do give it a lot of points for that.